know, kind of thinking about health, it's so dynamic. I think when I look in online spheres, it can be very like, this is your diet and these are the calories you're burning and go do it. And when I
Right.
created and when I created Firewave Wellness through my yoga practice, I understood that there was this huge emotional component, whether that was me getting myself to go do the dang thing or really having that breakup with a certain food group or things like that. And so, we're going to talk vision today, and I want to kind of ask you, what's that big scary thing that you see in front of your clients that you help them kind of overcome?
Oh gosh. Well, I think that part of what you just said is a big part of it, breaking up with a food group or feeling like you have to break up with something. And I um always start with the vision. We can't really begin anything planning wise for health and well-being until we have a really good solid idea of where it is that we're going. And I think anybody in here who works in health coaching area is pretty well familiar with the idea of a vision and the importance of that. The most common um, trends that I see is just that fear or hesitation to look our habits in the eye and to really be open to ourselves with thinking about why am I doing what I'm doing and why what motivates me to do that? Why do I find myself stuck in the pattern? What am I trying to avoid? What am I trying to hide from, forget? And so a lot of times it's really starting with that. We start with having this conversation that's really polite. And I kind of like, do you remember way back in the day, Real World was on MTV?
Yeah.
And there was like, they talk about how like real world is what happens when people stop being polite and start getting real. So many of my coaching sessions start like that, where it's very polite and we have the conversation about, oh, yeah, well, I'd like to lose 15 pounds and get started with exercise and stop having so much sugar. And, that's fun. But then as we talk and as we talk and we kind of just like start to dig a little bit more, that's when it starts to get real, and that's where the good stuff happens. And on so many times it's not wanting to have to think about the reasons why we keep going into the pantry or we keep going into the fridge. And the reason it's not something that people get up in the morning and look forward to thinking about, but that's what it is.
Yeah. And for me, the intimacy is what got me consistent. So facing that emotional landscape, whatever it looked like in the beginning, and I think that's really the importance of having a coach. Because like Heather and I have watched it happen in our own body. Obviously not everybody's different, or everybody is different. Like not everybody's the same. But the experience can happen around different products, things like that. So um, for people that maybe are in an organization or are balancing that, like, how do I be in high professional performance, and still acknowledge the beautiful health like that I need to do to express to be fully productive. What's some of the things that you share in those talks to really inspire like people that are in a bigger, it's not just them.
Well, in worksite well-being, there's a lot of layers to that as well. We spend so much of our time at work. And, over the past year and a half or so, that's been, a dynamic situation where we're, working from home or we're working in, different places. And and so worksite wellness has had to evolve in that sense as well. But what's really important to me when I work with any organization is that we're taking a look at the people who work there and that they have access to the tools that they need to live healthy, balanced lives, whatever that means for them. So sometimes people assume that a worksite wellness program is going to include something for fitness and something for nutrition and something for there might be a pedometer challenge. There might be I hate when I hear people say weight loss challenge, and things like that, because you're assuming that you know what people want and need for themselves. But when you start really asking about what people's needs and desires are for their health and well-being, might discover that what you are offering isn't necessarily what's helpful. I've worked with plenty of organizations that think that they're doing a fantastic job by offering a free gym membership to everybody who works there. They feel great about doing that because it feels generous and proactive and helpful. One organization, nobody was using the gym membership. It was almost all of their employees were single moms who had no time to go to the gym and no childcare, and it was not even on their radar. What they really needed was stress management and resilience. And so, just making sure that the programs that are available are relevant to the people who work there, that are accessible to everybody at every level of entry, every stage of readiness, and that everybody is within an arm's reach away from the tools that they need to live healthy, balanced lives, whatever that means for them. And the real foundation of that is that at the top of the organization, there is an appreciation for the well-being of others, and that worksite well-being starts with having an appreciation and value for the health and well-being of others. And that's where it all starts.
I agree. And when you're on the receiving end of somebody's leadership that is working on appreciation, my friendly reminder is to have immense courage, right? Because you have to courageously go, I'm not going to take your gym membership. My Peloton's great at home. What is a stress management fatigue? Like I've in my past been in those work situations where to speak up about, needing wellness or needing the mental health day, I think they're calling them even now, can be stigmatizing or like internally a lot really chaotic. And so if there's anything that this kind of day talks about is that we get to normalize speaking life into what we need. And that's really how we begin that prioritization. I want to give some juicy health advice. I want to talk about metabolism, Heather. I know that can be daunting for people. They're like, what's my basal metabolic rate? And how do we shift, sometimes I'm working with people and there's prescriptions involved and things. So I want to honor that health is a big place. And I think with your board certification, you're totally qualified to drop some knowledge on us. So, when it comes to understanding metabolic processes and understanding how your body functions, what's some of those things that people can keep top of mind?
You're right. Yeah, health is a big thing, and I think that it's more of an art than a science. There's elements of both. There's absolutely the math side of weight loss. If you have a goal of weight loss and you're interested in, creating having a change in the way that your body metabolizes energy, then there's absolutely there's a list of things to do. There's math that needs to be done, and that side is there. But then it's also balanced by the art of partnering with yourself in a compassionate way. I think that in the chat, Jennifer, with our last speaker said, when ego shows up, I say, hey girl, I see you, and keep it moving on. And I love that, because what that shows me is that element of partnering with yourself. I work so many times with my clients on becoming a partner with themselves, asking, what do you need? listening and believing what it says, what your body says, what that person inside of you says, and then responding compassionately. And so asking, what is it that I need? What do I need today? I have clients that check in every day. What do I need today? Do I need a high impact energy workout? Do I need something calming? And honoring what your body tells you that it needs, believing that it's telling you the truth, and then, responding to build that trust with yourself. And so that's kind of the art that balances out the science part of, are you working at a high enough level of intensity consistently enough for enough time to make a difference, to have a calorie deficit that's going to lead to weight loss? Are you eating foods that are helpful and productive and a good partner with your workouts? And then also looking at the emotional side of things. Do you find that you're working out so that you can earn the getting to eat food later? And reminding ourselves that food as humans is not something we need to earn. We require food. And so that's not something that we have to go and exercise in order to be able to do, but rather using that as a tool for weight loss when it's appropriate. Did that make any sense?
Yeah. I think clarifying that it's not rigid. We take on these paradigms that, I'm only going to, like, I can't walk down the stairs and that will mean that the weight loss will come, or, it's salad and only salad.
It's
Some
that
of
all or
those things.
nothing. Yeah, I think there's just so much power in believing yourself, in believing that you are telling yourself the truth. When you ask what you need and hear a response, that's the truth. And I think that when our instinct is to push that away and think, no, I have to follow these rules or nothing is ever going to change, that we do ourselves a disservice, because I call it kicking the dog. So if you've ever had, have you ever had an experience with a dog that has been abused? Have you ever met a dog that has been kicked and people have been mean to the dog and the dog has learned to not trust people anymore? And we can all imagine having this experience of meeting a dog that has been abused in the past, and there is defensiveness and aggression and lack of trust, and assuming that you are there to hurt him. And so what you have to do in those types of situations is demonstrate peace, demonstrate calm, demonstrate trustworthiness. And so you put your hand out and you let the dog kind of sniff your hand, and you show calm, you don't make any abrupt motions, you keep consistent with your messaging that you are here in peace, kindness, and I'm not going to hurt you. Eventually, the dog starts to believe you, starts to trust you, and becomes your friend and your trusted companion, and you live forever happy. The same thing happens with our metabolism. When our body asks for something and we say, no, you can't have that, you have to follow these other rules, that's like kicking the dog. And it's just kicking yourself aside, kicking yourself aside. Just like that dog, your metabolism, your inside self is going to get the picture. It's going to get the message and say, I hear you. Okay, I'm on this. I have to do this on my own. And begins to lose trust. And a lot of times what happens when that transpires is you stop feeling hunger signals completely. Your body stops communicating with you. I hear my clients sometimes will say, I don't know how to eat when I'm hungry because I don't ever feel hungry. I don't feel hunger anymore. And they've kicked their metabolism aside so many times that it has stopped even asking. Just like the dog that stays in the yard and doesn't come by you because it's learned that you're not going to be helpful. And your body is asking for food, resources, TLC, and you kick it aside. It has learned that you're not going to be helpful. And there's a division there. And we want to get to partnership. So what we do is, just like we do with that puppy dog, we demonstrate trust. by responding and believing, so that when we ask, what do you need today? And then it responds, that you believe that you're telling yourself the truth. And then honor that, consistently honor that. Keep coming back and saying, I hear you, and here it is. I've heard you, and here it is. And continuing to serve yourself and meet your needs for TLC and love and compassion, and just believing that the message that you're sending to yourself is true. And that also means that caring for your physical self, showing up and having, whether it's a gentle stretching routine, whether it's a walk, whether it's a sweat, but caring for that physical self, and then also providing wholesome food in the quantities that are suitable for you when your body needs it. And it does take time, and sometimes needs working with a professional to figure out what that pattern is. When we do that consistently, our body comes back and wants to be our best friend again, because you've rebuilt that trust and demonstrated, I can be trusted. I'm here. I want to work with you. I'm not going to kick you anymore. We're in this together. And the only way that we're going to make progress is if I could continue to show you compassion and continue to provide for your needs. And then it's on, and as long as you just keep being your own best friend, keep being your own partner, then the sky's the limit at that point. It doesn't mean that you'll never have disagreements, but as long as you remember that your body is telling you the truth and it needs you to listen and respond with compassion, it's the only way that you're going to make any progress. Nobody responds to being kicked in a positive way. So stop kicking the dog, stop kicking yourself, and your metabolism will come back into a partnership with you, and you'll live happily ever after.
Yes, health is always evolving. What I really appreciate in what you said was the like acknowledgement of like, am I hungry? So much of that is like a craving pattern, right? Like you may always be hungry for Oreos, and that's not what we're talking about. And I think that there's a practice inside. Like I would love everybody to walk away with a little bit more attentiveness to acknowledging when your mouth is hungry and when your nourishment is hungry, like literally nutrients in in yourself. So many of us are in malnourishment, regardless of like actual hunger starvation patterns that are happening around the world. We've depleted the actual source of like the lettuce and the B vitamins inside of those things. And so we have to eat so much more of those good foods to not only refill our nutrients and get the energy back and be in that rhythmic state, but then your mouth catches up and you're able to be like, I want to crave that. I love feeling the lightness around. And that's completely different than like healing the guilt around food too. And I think that's why I love doing health holistically, because as you're getting yourself to not be so forceful with like, it's salad, it's Tuesday, you're also in immense forgiveness, and you have to kind of melt each of those in, and it takes time. I mean, you know that for sure.
I think there's a lot to be said about the having awareness of the real differences between physical hunger and emotional hunger, just so that you have that understanding and awareness, and you can ask yourself, is this an urgent craving for something specific? That's a telltale sign of emotional hunger. Or is it, just a general feeling of I need some food, and in the category of crunchy, and that is more of a sign of physical hunger. And then also knowing how, and you probably know more about this than I do. I'm not a dietitian, about, what your different cravings can actually mean. Linda jokes, suddenly I want some Oreos. And then digging into why Oreos, what is it, what's going on that makes my brain think that Oreos is the solution. And, knowing sometimes that your body will crave certain, Mia mentioned Oreos. It is the power of suggestion. Your body craves certain types of foods when it's missing some minerals and nutrients. And then also depending on stress. Craving sweets is known to be a stress response of our brain, wanting a quick burst of energy and knowing that sugar is going to provide that. And so when we feel like we've got that need for an adrenaline push to get through a stressful situation, part of our brain says, I need some sugar right now so I can do this. And we don't actually need it, but our brain still thinks we do. And that's the time to partner up and remind yourself compassionately that, no, we can do this. We're good. We'll get something to eat later when we're hungry.
Yeah, to speak into what you were saying, it's twofold for me that I see in clients. The first one is we definitely will open up food memory. We actually did that in our last series, and it was so amazing. For example, right, it's all energy, like we talked about with Dr. Yasmin, and she had been in such a depleted, like almost a sexuality depletion, that she turned to sugar. And it was this dialogue that she learned from her mother that had this situation that perpetuated a whole version of reality that she had to unravel from. And I think it's so important to honor some of those things. And we do it positively too. So we'll go, I'm not so much on like, be perfect Monday through Friday and then like Saturday, like cheat day. Like it's not going to work. It's not sustainable to do it that way. But when you have those positive food memories, like I come from a Filipino background, and so there's triggers of certain dishes. And I think when we get connected to our unique culture in those ways, your relationship to food changes and you give yourself a totally different version of permission. And then the second fold for me is looking at the nutrient counts. There's a lot of times, like I've super recently, but did like Ayurvedic specialist understandings, like you were saying, and there's energetic body states where like people are naturally going to have that more fieriness. For me, I get really airy, so I will feel like I'm floating around, or like I need to get grounded. So I'll heavy oil on my skin is so good, and the foods I eat are way better warm or like stew like than if I did 6 or 7 salads for 4 days. I still eat salad. But I can tell my state changes by the foods that I'm eating. And that's a lot of the work that goes into it. Because then you'll stick to the goal, right? When you can slow down enough to actually feel like, a full meal of just vegetables is working, and you don't have crackers in it anymore, and you don't do these things, and we're like shedding away the processed foods over time. That it amplifies in you and you believe it. And I think, like you mentioned in the very beginning of this conversation, like the vision has to be rooted.
Big time. Yeah. And it has to be true. Your vision has to be true, because if you don't feel it, you're not going to work towards it. It won't call to you. And we get stuck when we create a vision that we either don't believe we can have or that we think we should have, instead of what's true for us. And that's just, it just takes time to believe that, to believe what your body is telling you, what your heart is telling you, and to be brave enough to respond back with it.
Yeah, thank you so much. They say healthy smoothies take place of Cold Stone Creamery. Yeah. And that refinement is not overnight.
No.
There's like, you might have to U-turn from Cold Stone like 17 times. And I think that's
I
what,
have.
yeah. And I think that's where, someone like myself or a health coach in your area or Heather, what we really, what like the majority of our job is reminding you of your vision. And then also being like, yeah, but you wanted this and it's okay that you didn't get it, but like, where's an in between, like realisticness? I think that's pretty common in the coaching world, like, right, smart, achievable, realistic, timely. And I do like full blown, you get a weekly tracker from me. And so a lot of that's built in. But when, you hit 4 out of 7, it's not a conversation of shaming. It's a conversation of like, okay, what's next? Like, what irked you? And a lot of times my clients are harder like on themselves, right? Because that's just naturally how it goes.
Yeah, same.
So I wanted to support this audience to get to know you better, to really explore what it would mean to bring a wellness coach into your life, and expand on some of the things, so that they can get through with their dog. Tell us a little bit about, what your offering is and how people can get your support.
Well, it's all about the vision for me. Part of my life's purpose is to help people live healthy, balanced lives, and to be able to just offer a space where you can start to figure out what that vision is. And so I'm offering a free visioning session, which is about a 90-minute time for us to talk about what your vision is for yourself, and start putting that statement together so that you can have that statement that informs the goals that you set, so that you're making sure that the steps that you take in life are leading you towards the vision that you've created for yourself, and that is authentic and true for you. So, if that's something that sounds like it's a good time in your life for that, then I absolutely look forward to hearing from you. I also have Calendly to schedule those, just like our previous speaker, and I can send you the link for that. But then you can also go to my website, coachhealthyheather.com, and all of those resources will be in the materials for the retreat.
Awesome. Yeah, go ahead and you can put that in the chat anytime. And thank you so much for attending, Heather. It means a lot.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad.